Hi guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I do apologise, we're a little bit later than intended, technical difficulties, and if anyone's watching at the moment, pop comments in the comment box. I can't see them at the moment, we're on the phone instead of the laptop, so pop them there and I will answer later. If you're watching the replay, just put in the hashtag replay and any questions and comments along the way. So I have my good friend Bonnie joining me today. So we studied nursing together, it feels like many years ago, and we've gone on different paths with our careers, but there are similar things that I guess have cropped up along the way. We were talking last week when we were taking the dogs out for a walk, and I thought this is a really good topic to share with everyone and to help in any way we can with anything to do with what people are managing with stress and particularly careers and that work-life balance. So Bonnie works at the Alfred Hospital here in Melbourne. It is the major trauma hospital. She works in the intensive care unit. So big area, amazing job, and I'm so grateful for her joining. So thank you so much for coming and joining with me.
No, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So Bonnie, it feels like such a long time ago that we studied together, but remind me why you started nursing. What was the attraction there?
Well, I guess I came into nursing a bit later. I didn't always want to be a nurse. But I guess really the main point of why I got into nursing is because I wanted to help people. And helping people at their most vulnerable is a privilege, and it's something that I'm honoured to do every day.
So true.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Plus it's a good challenge academically, physical skill-wise, that kind of thing. So keeps you on your toes.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you mention, I guess, challenges, in your experience, what have some of those challenges been along the way?
Well, when you're in a job as a healthcare worker, I guess self-care doesn't always come first.
Yeah.
Because your job is literally to care for others, for their lives, for their families, dealing with everything else involved with taking care of other people. Yeah. But we quite often forget ourselves.
Yeah.
So, I guess it's a challenge to do that in the environment that I work in.
Yeah, and would you say, is it the time that makes it a challenge, or why do you think it's so easy to miss in that environment?
I think it's like a multifactorial thing.
Yeah.
So you have your shift work first and foremost. So you're working rotating shifts. I don't work 12-hour shifts, I work 8-hour shifts. So I can work a morning shift, an afternoon shift, or a night shift, and it can kind of be all thrown in there. So having a regular sleep schedule, a regular exercise schedule, for example, can be quite challenging. And even just having personal relationships with people that are not at work, who work Monday to Friday, can be hard because I work a lot of weekends.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's so true. Holding that normal life outside of that shift work can be a big thing. You mentioned in there, I guess, even keeping a normal or a regular sleep pattern. Yeah, speak to me a little bit more of that. I mean, I've completely got in my memory, my experience, those late earlies. So, you finish out. What time do you finish when you finish late?
It'll be 9:30 by the time that we finish.
And then so you're getting home, and say you'd be home
at 10:30.
10:30.
Yeah.
And then you need to be at work 7 a.m. the next day.
By 7.
What time do you leave to go to work?
About 6:15.
So you've got from 10:30 till 6:15. And you've got to have breakfast in that point.
Yeah.
You've got to have a shower and get ready for bed. So that time that you can sleep is getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you go with that sleep routine?
I think what helps with me is that when I walk out the door and I walk to my car and I get in my car, I use the drive home to process what's happened during my shift. And then when I get out of my car and get into the house is where I kind of turn off.
Yeah.
And I have to kind of let go of whatever's happened and just accept that I can't change what's happened, whether it's a good day or a not so good day. And then I use my shower time and maybe read a bit of a book or something like that to help me just kind of relax for bed. And look, I mean, you can only get so many hours in between a late, early, for example, but trying to make the sleep quality is important as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. I've just gone blank there. I completely forgot what I was going to ask you.
Well, I've just come off a bunch of night shifts.
Yes.
So we all know how fun that can be.
Yes, absolutely. How many night shifts did you have?
I had 4 night shifts, so I finished on Monday morning, and then I've worked 3-day shifts from Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
So you knocked off at 7 a.m. on Monday morning, and then you were back at work on Tuesday at what time?
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock. So that the jump between night shift and regular shifts is huge on your body clock. Obviously, we all know that we are meant to sleep between 9, 10 p.m. To 7 a.m. We're meant to sleep with the sun and the moon cycles. That's what our body is designed to do, and that's when our hormones get released for the sleep cycles and all of that sort of thing. So when we're doing that shift work, we are completely throwing our bodies, upside down. No idea what's going on. And one thing, as you mentioned, that's what I was going to ask. Now I remember. Before we talked about the night shift, you had mentioned that you use the drive home and you read a book and everything to process. Is that something that you've done all the way along through your nursing career?
No, not at all. I think that's only something I've adopted in the last kind of couple of months.
Okay, so it's fairly new.
Yeah, it's fairly new because I think when I changed from my old job in cardiothoracics to ICU, which I started in February, I found the transition quite traumatic for a number of reasons. And so I was taking things home from work and I wasn't sleeping properly. And I found that really challenging. Yeah. So that strategy for me is something that works for me.
Yeah. And do you think it was, I guess, the increased illness of the patients that, processed a bit more? Expectations as well?
Look, I mean, I'm pretty harsh on myself, so I guess having high expectations can be positive and negative. But I think it's a combination of just the environment of seeing such sick patients, a lot of trauma patients, a lot of traumatic crashes, blast injuries, etc. Can be quite confronting, I guess. So that emotional processing was quite difficult at the start.
Yeah.
And then just new workplace, all that kind of making new friends, settling in, that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And so explain to me, so for those of you who aren't in the healthcare environment, so you started off in the cardiothoracics. Yeah. What does that mean? Explain that to me.
So it's basically just so I was at the Alfred. So basically cardiac ward. So if your patients had a bypass surgery, any kind of stents, any kind of heart failure conditions, we looked after those kind of patients. Yeah. So even though they're not as sick as in intensive care, still very
really sick,
unwell patients. Yeah,
absolutely. I've seen a couple of people pop on. So hi Coral, hi Sharon, sorry, tongue-tied. Thank you so much for joining. Just pop any comments in as you're watching if you like, and I'll check them after the video because I can't see them at the moment. But thanks so much for joining us. So yeah, as you were saying, really, not as sick as you're currently looking, but those patients, they're having some really major surgeries, and they're really unwell. And that was your first nursing job.
Yep.
Like, you jumped straight in there right from the get-go.
I don't do things by halves.
Oh my God. And yes, we are obviously friends outside of work, and I couldn't agree with that more. Absolutely. So you've mentioned, the changes in the swap between the ward and the ICU, and the different challenges, and you've mentioned that the new strategies that you've got to really manage the different nature of that shift and some of the shift work strategies. What do you do, I guess, in between shifts on other times for that self-care that we mentioned as we started the video?
Yeah. So I think, first of all, the perception of self-care might not be the way that people think. So I think people think self-care is pouring a glass of wine and having a bubble bath.
And can I jump in there? That is not self-care. There is a role for that at some time.
Look, I mean, I think it still has a place. I'm not going to turn down a bath or a glass of wine.
Absolutely.
But I think it's in conjunction with other things as well.
So many other things. So what does self-care mean to you?
I think self-care for me is just looking after my physical, emotional and spiritual well-being.
Yes.
And that's really challenging in today's day and age where everyone expects things and they expect them now. A lot of pressure.
So what do you do for your physical health? What do you do?
I'm a big exerciser. I've got a lovely dog, as you know. I've got a Labrador. She's very active.
She's right at my feet. She's trying to watch pats.
She's
so adorable.
I like to go out on a lot of adventures with her.
Yeah.
I try and exercise every single day. So even though I had an early start this morning, I got up and took Honey for a half an hour walk.
Yeah.
And even though I'm tired, it feels good.
Yeah.
So I try and do regular exercise. I also swing dance. That's also, we've been dancing together for a while as well. So I do dancing regularly and I find that's good for my emotional and physical well-being. I try, and it doesn't always work, I try to eat well. Look, we all have our moments. I'm a bit of a caffeine addict, self-admittedly, so that's probably something I could cut back on. But,
Hi, Laura. Thanks for joining us. Hi, Han.
I guess I try and eat well. I try and exercise, and I try and just get out amongst nature. I find that really helps center me.
And I find it interesting. So you mentioned with the exercise there, so obviously we know the effects of our physical health, but you mentioned there with the emotional effects too, with being outside, exercising, being in nature is such a big thing.
Yeah. And I've always felt that connection with nature, so
Absolutely.
That's part of my self-care routine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And another thing we've got in common, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, get me out in nature and everything just feels so much better.
100%.
Yeah. For me, I meditate twice a day, and that is hands down the best thing for my mental health. That helps me hugely. So yeah, self-care is something that's different for every single person. I've got a friend who mountain biking is her number one self-care. It does amazing things for her, obviously physically, but emotionally, it's absolutely amazing. And she goes up through the rainforest. I couldn't imagine personally anything worse. That is not my self-care. That's going to take quite a lot of convincing to get me to do that.
Yeah,
but
I wouldn't do that.
Exactly. We are all different. That is her self-care. So everyone is so different. But finding out what your self-care is and doing it, making it a number one priority, which Bonnie does, up so early this morning to take beautiful Honey at my feet here for a walk before she started her shift. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, I guess we've talked a few things, throughout time. And I guess in light of what we were talking about, self-care, is there anything that you wish we had been told about at uni?
Yeah. Look, I mean, there's lots of things I wish they'd told us at uni.
Yeah.
I mean, nursing's not always the way they present it at uni, which,
Yeah.
I guess more emphasis on self-care.
Yes.
More emphasis on some things you're going to see are going to affect you in ways that you can't imagine.
No, you've got no idea what happens.
And that it's okay to reach out and ask for help when you need it, because guaranteed all of us need help. Even those seasoned veteran nurses that have been ICU nurses for 10, 15 years, everyone has their days.
Of course they do.
Yeah.
I think that was probably one of my biggest struggles when I first started nursing. So I was an enrolled nurse before we went to uni together. And when I first started as an enrolled nurse, I would be drowning. And my educator would come and ask me, do you need a hand with anything? And I'd be like, no, I'm fine. I've got this. I'm fine. When the answer was yes, I'm struggling. And I wasn't able to give the best care to my patients because I was drowning in so many ways. But I didn't think it was okay to ask. So, interesting that those sort of things come up. And again, that self-care. I don't know whether you knew that, I actually emailed our old university and asked if they'd be interested to have me come and speak a little bit about my own journey and the importance of self-care and that kind of stuff, which is possibly happening next year. So
that sounds very exciting.
It's really
and definitely
exciting.
a needed gap in nurses' education.
Absolutely.
100%. Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, if anyone's watching at the moment, whether you're watching the replays or you're live with us now, if you've got any contacts in the nursing field and you think that this could be something beneficial, reach out. Happy to share the story and share the self-care message in any possible way that I can. Hi Lorraine, thanks for joining us. We've talked about a few things today. Is there anything that you think's worth mentioning?
Yeah, I think we have maybe touched a bit on good emotional self-care. I will say that as health professionals, we are inclined to burn out. And burnout is something I think that people normalise a lot.
Yes.
And tend to brush under the carpet. And I guess one of the things I would say is knowing the signs and symptoms of burnout.
Absolutely.
How they present in yourself. You might not even be aware that you're actually burnt out until a friend, a family member, your partner goes, hey, you've been acting a bit strange.
Yep.
Is everything okay? Because as much as we do try and leave things at the hospital when we leave, some things come home with you.
Yeah.
And that's part of the job.
Yep.
Like, if you want to be a good nurse, you need to care, but a consequence of caring is sometimes you take those things home.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a hard balance. So I would say definitely talking about your burnout, your signs and symptoms, how you're feeling, talking to your colleagues.
Yeah.
Most often people are really feeling burnt out. I've had a lot of conversations over the last couple of months with some colleagues, and they all too have experienced burnout, or they're in the middle of it, or they just need to know that it's okay.
Yeah.
And that it's okay to get help for that too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think it's common in so many industries. I've talked to some people in the corporate world. I've spoken to some teachers and nurses. It is so common and so normalised. Yeah. So thank you so much for bringing that up. I guess, what's your experience been with burnout? What does that look like for you?
I'll probably say it came on slowly. I think even though I really like my job, I found it stressful to start with.
Yeah.
And so I really think maybe the last 6 months I've been experiencing burnout and not realising. So I just grumpy, short-tempered, not enjoying work, very anxious at work. And so I think when I kind of realised I was going through those things, I could then go, okay, well, I don't want to feel like this.
Yes.
How can I change? I took a couple of weeks of work off and spoke to my manager. She was wonderful about it, actually. So my workplace has been very supportive of that. And I guess it was quite scary for me to go to my manager and go, hey, I'm actually not doing great. Yeah. And for her to go, hey, actually, that's okay.
Yes. And
so how can we support you? How much time do you need off? So I think having the time off, having time to reflect, seek some professional psychological help also has been really helpful too. Yeah. And it's just really got me back on track and feeling a lot better. So now I can actually do my job and hopefully manage the signs and symptoms of burnout a lot better.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. And that you've got really supportive manager.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
I'm very lucky. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, my journey wasn't quite the same. Yeah, and I would say hands up. But yeah, absolutely picking up on those signs and symptoms, because I didn't. And because of that, I had some anxiety. I was having panic attacks at work, and that was my first sign that things were not okay, and that I wasn't coping. And I couldn't agree more. The professional help absolutely really, really helped. And having that supportive environment helps so much. So if that's something that I guess you're going through or have been through in the past, reach out, talk to someone, because that's absolutely the best way forward.
Definitely.
And some of those self-care methods that you mentioned have been so accurate. So whatever your self-care looks like, and some people that I've talked to about self-care, they're like, I don't even know. I've got no idea. What I recommend doing, if you don't know what is best for you for self-care, and when I say what's best for you, I mean is going to recharge your batteries, like is really going to nourish you on every single way, being the physical, the emotional, and the spiritual. Have a look at what are some of the people around you are doing, and try some things out. Go out with a walk in nature and see if that does it for you. give meditation a try. Maybe go for a walk with your dog, or go for a run, or have that bath, or whatever it is. Give it a go. Go and do some yoga. It doesn't even matter. Give it a go. If that feels good to you, and you'll know when it does, it feels really good. Give it a go, and that's the only way you're going to find out what is the best for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the bucket analogy is a good one as well.
Yes.
You can't give of yourself if your bucket is empty.
Yep.
So you've got to find a way to fill that up and keep it filled, and use your overflow to sort of give
to others
any extra. That's it. Yeah.
And I think that's so true. And you can only give once it's overflowing, once it is full. Not half full, definitely not empty. Once it is full or overflowing.
That's it.
That is so true.
Yeah.
And so vitally important.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Wow. I think some of the things we've talked about today can absolutely apply to men and women in any area of work that you're doing. It doesn't matter. And, maybe you've got extra stresses outside of work and everything just piles up. And can definitely contribute. Again, just want to stress if that's something you're struggling with, absolutely reach out. And thanks Bessie and Tegan for joining us. Is there, tell me what comes next. So I ask you now, what's it looking like moving forward?
Well, I've just signed myself up for postgrad next year, so that's both exciting and terrifying. And I guess I'm going to be really needing to look after myself next year. It's going to be a big year.
So what sort of things are you already starting to work in now, to set you up for next year?
Refilling my bucket.
Yep.
I'm not quite there. I'd probably say I'm only maybe half to 3/4 full.
Yep.
So it's just really recharging and learning how to manage stress and anxiety.
Yep.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Recharging myself so I'm ready for next year and its challenges.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
No, it's going to be so good.
It is.
So excited for you.
That's it.
You're going to be so great.
Thank you.
It's such a wonderful thing. Which sounds really great that you've learnt along the way, as we all do.
And we'll always continue learning.
Absolutely.
The best way is to look after ourselves. We're the ones looking after others.
Yeah, and I think as we change the ways that are best to look after ourselves, are going to change as well, and being aware of that is a really great thing.
Yeah, well, it'll affect your patient care too. So you're going to be better at your job. You're going to be happier, more content, fulfilled. That's really what you want, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And not only your patients, so your patients, obviously, really important thing. Not only your patients, but also your loved ones around you. If you're, short, snappy, moody because you're tired, and we've both been there.
Poor Isaac.
We've both been there. Our loved ones have copped it over the years, but, it affects everyone in your community.
It does.
Yeah, it's so important.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've covered everything that I thought might be good to talk about. Is there anything else that you thought was worth mentioning?
Well, haven't mentioned one thing that I will say has really helped for my strategy. Puppy cuddles.
Yes. So for those who have joined us later, we have got beautiful Labrador, who is Bonnie's hello beautiful coping method. And yes, dog therapy. I couldn't recommend it enough. So those of you who have joined us live here tonight, thank you so much for joining us. It's been wonderful to have you here. If you're watching the replay, or if you've got any questions about anything that was spoken about, pop some comments in and I will absolutely answer those. So thank you so much. And I'm going to stress one more time, if you're struggling with exhaustion, burnout, if you're finding you're more moody, irritable, reach out to those around you. I work one-on-one with my clients, and we work through a whole range of things as far as your exhaustion and what we can be doing to really fill your bucket up and be living the exact best life that you absolutely want to be living. So send me a message if you'd like to have a little bit more of a chat with that. But thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Bonnie.
Bye.
Bye, guys.